Mr. Walter Chillingworth, Part 1.
I'm in the home of Mr. Walter Chillingworth at 111 West 35th Street, Riviera Beach. The time is 9 o'clock in the morning, approximately, and this is Wednesday, the 28th of February, 1962. Mr. Chillingworth, you understand the object of these tapes is to complete the story of the development of this area by the people who lived the life in the early days. When did you first come here, sir?
Well, I was born in Juneau when it was Dade County, since Palm Beach County was not created until July 1, 1909.
Dade County went how far then? Up to Stewart, didn't it?
It did. It was all extended from Cape Sable all the way up to the north end of Martin County. Correct. St. Lucie River.
Now, Juneau as we know it today is not the Juneau that you knew it, is it?
Well, now, I was a pretty small youth, but I do have some recollection of it. I had I can see the wharf there, as tiny as I was. Mind you, there were just two lawyers there, my father and Judge Allen Heiser, who later lived in Riviera Beach down here, where Newcomb eventually bought years later.
Well, what was the community of Juneau like?
Juneau was just a handful of people, that's all. Guy Metcalf was editor and owner of the Tropical Sun, the most southerly paper being published in the United States at that time. Lacey Metcalf was born there. He and I were the only two children born in Juneau, so far as I know, because Juneau had a very, very short life. The county seat was shortly changed from there down to Miami on the Miami River, west of Brickell's Point at around the turn of the century.
Now, this Tropical Sun newspaper, was it the only newspaper in the area?
It was the only newspaper so far as we have any record. I have documented proof of it over here. Go ahead.
That's all right. Where did you move to when you left Juneau?
We came to what was the beginning of West Palm Beach. We'd had a couple of shell ribbons down Clematis Avenue then. Now it's Clematis Street.
And they were put down by Shell, huh?
It's just oyster shell, two ribbons, right down the wagon tracks.
And the rest of it was sand?
The rest of it is sand.
Did you go to school in West Palm Beach?
Oh, yes. I went to school many, many years there, right on the site where Cresties is now, if I'm correct, just south of Burdines on Clematis Street.
Do you remember who your first teacher was?
I do. Mrs. Curry. She was known as Angevine then.
Is she still living?
She is. It's Judge Curry's mother.
And you went through all of the grade school that was available at West Palm?
I went all the way through the grade school and also through the high school. I graduated in the high school along with Lacey Metcalf, and there were four in that class, in the class of 1912, and we have a unique distinction. And it only being four, and three of those four were boys. There was only one girl, and that was Ruth Cook, and she is married to Bowler, who is now one of the owners of B.D. Cole Insurance Agency.
And from there, where did you go, sir, to school?
I went to Cornell University. The war came along. Coming back from the war, I went to Ford's. I was there several years, and then I came back to Florida for a short time, and then back to Chicago.
You practiced law in Chicago?
Yes, I do. You see, no, I wasn't admitted at that time, but I did work in accountancy out there. You'll see the evidence across here. There's the Supreme Court, the United States document there. That, by the way, bears a date 1 week earlier than Judge White.
Oh, really?
Just 1 week.
In your early days in the Palm Beach or the West Palm Beach area, What did boys do to amuse themselves?
Oh, I can see many things they did. One thing, we had great big camphor trees along the street, and we climbed up in those trees there. And late at night, there were electric bugs that came along by the carbon lights that were put out there. We used to play hide and seek, and we went down the alleys because there were alleys in the old town. Today, there are no alleys, and consequently, the back of one lot butts up against the back of another lot on the other street.
I take it with the carbon lights there were rather serious scourges of mosquitoes at times, too.
Well, maybe so, but the main trouble then was those electric bugs. They were so thick on the ground that they could be swept up in the morning with a broom.
Did you ride bicycle in those days?
Yes, we rode bicycle, and I'll let you know another thing. At the corner there where the First Savings and Loan Association now stands, that is the corner of what was Old Olive and Ivernia Street. That very corner, I fell down with the bicycle coming around the corner. I slipped entirely because those streets were made of coquina rock, and they were not covered with tarvia. Consequently, when a rain came along, it slackened, just like slack lime, and became very slippery. That's why I fell.
Well, of course, they say you're not a bike rider until you've fallen at least once.
Well, I think that's right. I had my spills. Charles Gruber can tell you he was the best in the group. And by the way, we used to ride sometimes as far as from here to Miami on a Sunday. I never rode the round trip in one day, but Henry Burkhardt has ridden the round trip. Arthur Lyman in Boynton has ridden the round trip many, many times in those days because the main mode of transportation at that time when we had first had the semblance of a paved road at all were bicycles. Clematis Avenue, I said Clematis Avenue, not Clematis Street, had pipes driven the whole length from upon top of the hill where we have a Monterey Hotel from there clean down to the city dock, where Myrtle Avenue joins it now. What was Myrtle Avenue then? But it's the Kettler Theater, the Bijou, right in there now, and the Western Union on the other side in the Citizens Bank building. Those places were filled with bicycles. I have seen them entire length, all filled up. You didn't have another place to park a bike.
Now that round trip to Miami is quite for a piece, about 150 miles.
No, it's a round trip, yes, but I never made a round trip. I told you Henry Burkhardt did, yes, and Arthur Lyman, yes.
What was the condition of the road?
It wasn't too bad because there was no traffic on it then. I have ridden in automobile as late as 1911, and I met one car between here and Miami.
Was it a dirt road?
No, it had passed that stage. Then we were getting rock from down at Naranja from the EP Mall Construction Company, now located at what was then Ogis, but now it's at Hallandale.
Remember the names of the bicycles of those days?
Yes, I do. I can name many of them. There's a Columbia made in Westfield, Massachusetts. That was one. Crescent 2, Imperial 3, Barnes Flyer 4, and I could mention others if I had time to think of them.
What did a wheel cost?
A good bike in those days cost you, if you bought a good bike, would be $75. My father had a Columbia chainless, and chainless is not seen today, but it worked on a bevel gear. One advantage of it, you never had to have a pants guard because the chainless took the chain away, and consequently your pants leg was not chewed up in a chain.
They have single speeds?
We didn't know anything about the 3-speed Sturmey Archer coaster brake in those days.
They've gone up now to some of the makers are putting out 10-speed wheels.
Oh yes, I have no doubt about it.
But you just sat there and pumped against the wind no matter what the conditions.
Yeah, I have another interesting thing to add about this. Arthur Lyman was one of the best riders in the whole state. He used to go everywhere. He went on a team to Miami down there in the Little River, 5 miles north of Miami. He defeated the best riders in Miami. Now, Arthur Lyman learned to ride a race cycle, which was a large sprocket, and it was a high gear. Consequently, he paced himself very slowly, but he had strong, sturdy legs. And Henry Burkhart can verify that.
Did they play baseball then too, sir?
Well, the first I remember anything about playing baseball was around 1906. And we went down to Miami to play. We stopped at Arch Creek. Arch Creek was a natural overpass over a little river there, just north of Little River. And we went on into Miami. We played down in the Bayfront, what is now the Bayfront Park. In those days, the Royal Palm was at the end, the foot of Avenue B, then Avenue B, which is now, as near as I can tell, it was First Street northeast.
First Street north of Flagler.
Yes, that's east and west. I want the street going north and south at the foot of that in Miami, see?
Those are avenues.
Yeah, those are avenues, okay.
You played baseball down there, rode down, played baseball, and then rode home again, huh?
Well, no, we actually in that time, on that particular occasion, went on the train.
Oh. Did the schools have organized sports? Did they have teams in schools?
Not much before 1910 was the first year we had any organized athletics in West Palm Beach, and that was even long before the Cooley Stadium.
What kind of entertainment was featured the coeducational aspect? What did boys and girls do together?
I can remember the first occasion I ever had. I was not present myself, but my brother, the judge, went to Donald Lanehart's upon the lakefront here, where the Good Samaritan Hospital now stands. And that was his father's home, George Lanehart of Lanehart and Potter, who own the present, their sons own the present lumber yard. And a dance was given by Grace Lanehart, who was, as near as I can understand, one of the pioneers here associated with Tommy Reese's mother, Miss Bell Dimmick in those days. And then she's Mrs. Bell Reese later on, and Mrs. Bell Whitman.
But they did have dances for boys and girls.
Oh, indeed they did. They had just as good times then, if not better than they do today, in my estimation. Of course, I'm not a twist artist.
Yeah, twist looks to me like a man doing the St. Vitus dance on a hot roof.
Maybe so.
What kind of clothes did the boys wear?
Well, I can see the Hartshafter and Marks version of about 1912 would be the first time that I paid any attention to men's dress, and they were exceptionally good. And there was a Negro tailor here, right across from where Belk's store is. His name was Artson. He would make you custom to order pair of trousers for $9. There would be no cuff on it. It would be a perfect fit, and the woolens were out of this world.
Was this the day of the belted back, the suit with the belt in the back?
No, Norfolk came along later.
But the boys didn't go as they do now, for example, when they're in school. They didn't go into the, more or less, the uniform that most of them seem to wear.
There was no money. There wasn't enough money. If you wanted to go and bring a baseball team from one town, you had to go and pass the hat down through the merchantmen in town, and if they felt so inclined that they thought it was a good investment, why, they would pour out some shekels But that's the only way we ever got anywhere.
But they didn't supply uniforms and
They did not. We didn't even have band instruments, which you have now today, and the public pays for that.
Did you play in a band?
I did not. There was no band. But I do remember the first band they had in West Palm Beach, and Bert Lemon was then the band leader. They brought in a man by the name of Kaufman from Austria over here, was one of the best trumpeters I ever heard in my life, and I've heard James, television fame.
Did you go in for sailing or any water sports?
Went in for swimming quite a bit. We had our day in swimming. There was a wreck down here at Dick Croker's wreck. It took place during one of the storms. We used to go down there and go in swimming off of that. As late as 1912, Blaney Himes, Professor Himes' son, Whitney Himes' brother, he was along in that group. Bert Hiscock was there, and I could mention others if I could recall them after some manner of association.
Did you practice law here?
Never did, no, sir. My father steered me away from it in the early days, and I studied accounting. You can see the evidence over here on the wall.
Which did you prefer, accounting or law?
Well, I liked them both. When I was working with the general accounting officer 25 years, I had sometimes one case would be 40%. Next time, the next case would be just the reverse.
But it paid pretty well, huh?
Well, it paid well enough. That is, I have no complaint. There are plenty of people that were paid more than I was, but there were also plenty of people that were paid less than I was paid.
In your days here in the Palm Beach area, what would you say was your most memorable experience?
The thing that stands out in my mind, which some people have doubt about. Remember, I was born in 1893, August the 19th. But I stood upon the wooden rail fence right at the edge of the lot that was occupied, as now presently occupied by the Pennsylvania Hotel. Then there was nothing up there, but Trevette Lockwood was supervising the laying of the foundation there. He was getting ready to do that. And I saw Charlie Miller with the tugboat taking the old county jail and the courthouse, mind you, one on each lighter. They were yoked in one following the other, and a bridle put out, and that went through the inland water passage all the way to Miami, through Biscayne Bay, turn to the right, go up Miami River to what was then Avenue D, and Miami River. Now, that Avenue D has become South Miami Avenue, so I'm informed.
And that was when they moved the center of
That's right, at the turn of the century. I was 7 years old. A lot of people kind of doubt that, but I can still get some others. Henry Burkhardt lived next door south of me where the Lake Court apartment is.
And that's your most memorable
Well, that stands out. Of course, I can remember other things, too.
for example.
Well, I remember as a boy, and I could go to sleep and almost set my watch by the Florida East Coast Railway, which left Jacksonville at 9 o'clock in the morning and came in at Avernia Street, exactly 300 miles south, and was just 12 hours. It would be 9 o'clock at night. And I can hear, out of the stillness of the night, I could hear that same locomotive, the exhaust from it, as far as Lantana, which was 9 miles south.
Did people go down and meet the trains in those days?
They used to meet it in the morning. I'll tell you something else, my friend. I was down at the railroad station the morning that President McKinley was assassinated in the Temple of Music in Buffalo, New York.
How did that news come
It came by telegraph.
over the railroad line?
Yes, it did. And we held a train up a half hour, something unusual even in those days.
Part 2 of Mr. Walter Chillingworth is on the other side of this reel. Walter Chillingworth, Part 2.
And the mail was all delivered on the train by train that in those days too. Huh?
Yes, in 1914 we had a washout at Ermine River up here, and what is now known as Lake Park. In those days, that was even before you had Kelsey City. That same place was washed out and remained a washout for over 1 week. The trains came down from Jacksonville, brought the mail, transferred by boat under the river, across the river, and up on the other side and met and carried to Mima.
There was no mail delivery service in those days.
Oh no, that didn't happen at least until long. Well, I'm going to say after World War I.
Everybody went down to the post office and picked up their own mail. Huh?
Yes, that's right. In those days, we were back in where the Belk building is. That was the old Metcalf property, and I remember going in there many times. And our box, my father's box, was 124. We lived at 224. The tourist street, just 100 numbers. Difference between the two is the only way I associate them, and that's where the Harvey building is today.
Remember who the postmaster was?
Yes, I can. After a few minutes, I can recall, because he was head of the Carpenters Union. Guy Metcalf had been postmaster there preceding this man, and this man was head of the labor union. Right now I can't think of it, but William A. Dutch was shortly the mayor of West Palm Beach thereafter.
The railroad. Did the railroad perform any other services besides bringing people and freight and mail in here?
What do you have in mind?
Well, I have been told that in the early days of settlement along here, that the railroad held itself responsible for notifying by the whistle of the locomotive any untoward weather which was due to come down from the north.
I've heard that too through the society. I believe down here there was a family in Delray that had that experience, but that's the only time I've ever heard of it.
Of course, the coming of the railroad changed this whole area completely, didn't it?
It did, very much, just as much so as the predecessor on the West Coast, which was a plant system, which later became the Atlantic Coast Line, finally taken over and subsidized by the Pennsylvania, although it's not generally known by the public. Still goes under the name of Atlantic Coast Line. They've also absorbed the FEC at the present time by the Interstate Commerce Act.
Now, when Mr. Flagler extended the railroad down from Titusville down through Stewart and Jupiter and
Yes.
he built the Ponciana Hotel over there on Palm Beach.
Yes, that's
Did
correct.
he immediately have the bridge across to the hotel?
Oh, no, my friend. Listen, the building, the lumber that came for that hotel there was an early predecessor. Now, listen, I was born in 93. Before that hotel was built over there when there was no railroad in here. The lumber came down the inland waterway from Titusville to Jupiter, reshipped on the Celestial Railroad to Juneau, reshipped on sailboat from Juneau to the present site of where the Historical Society has its headquarters for this county.
Then he built the hotel before he built the railroad down here.
Oh, yes. Grover Cleveland, in one of his administration, either the first or the second, remember, he's the only president of the United States that succeeded himself with an intermission of one term, and that was by Benjamin Harrison. and Benjamin Harrison's term expired in the first month, March 93. And that's when Grover Cleveland came in the second time. And Grover Cleveland came down here during his administration and spent part of his time at the Royal Ponciana Hotel.
Well, how did they get back and forth from the mainland?
Oh, that was easy enough. Follow the same way that the pattern of the boat came. We go over sailboat up to Juneau, Juneau back on up to Jupiter, Jupiter to Titusville, Titusville the rest of the way.
No, I meant between West Palm and Palm Beach.
Oh, there was no West Palm Beach then, my friend. They couldn't, because West Palm Beach was built for another purpose. That was built with the intention of being servants' quarters for Palm Beach. But the boot turned to be on the other foot later on. It outstripped them, at least in numbers of people. And the people that lived in Palm Beach didn't have any desire of becoming a metropolitan city.
The Celestial Railroad, who built that?
There is some documentary evidence here of who built that, but the name bears itself all the way out. You can see the names of the places, the stations along that, being Venus, Mars, Saturn, all those places of which do not come into existence today. The only names left today are Juneau, which is reconstructed, and Jupiter, which has always remained the same. Jupiter was there during the Civil War. That's where the light was taken up the river and sunk before the federal hands could get hold of it. The Confederates took it up there and put it underwater. And then it was restored and rescued after the Civil War was over.
Well, now, why was the Celestial Railroad built? As part of Mr. Flagley's plan?
No, no. Yes, it was. He intended to go down the peninsula on the east side, but two men stopped him, Bell and Spencer. Whether they did it intentionally or otherwise, the tracks were taken up. The right of eminent domain was too expensive then, so consequently they came around the west side. And that brings in Jupiter Station around this way and accounts for the way going on the inland passage west of the inland waterways.
Of course, he was also blocked up in the Stewart area. He wanted to go down Sewell's Point and jump directly to Salerno.
Oh, yes, but that's a little bit different. That's Sunrise Point down there, just a little bit different. That's Willoughby Spit and all that section. I am more or less familiar with that situation up there, too. Yeah, that's beautiful water, and that's one of the finest inland waterways in the world because of the extreme depth. It runs anywhere 40 feet, maybe up 20 miles up the South Branch.
Are you a fishing enthusiast?
I like to go for bluefish or something that I can eat, but as far as sailfish or sport fish that most people have a great deal of fun out of, I don't get the thrill out of that a great many people do.
Now, sail fishing is a more or less recent sport, isn't it?
It is, comparatively, in speaking. Most of the natives here, though, Bert Hiscock was one of the first and I saw in this section that started in and sail fishing in a big way. And by the way, the Lyman boys are the ones, and now it's Ginter Lyman. He's the head man out of Boynton, and he's probably the biggest sailfish operator as far as boats are concerned for charter up and down the coast.
Is that so?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. They did, in the early days when they wanted to go fishing, they didn't go outside in the ocean, did they at all?
Few people did. George Fowler did. He was one of the commissioners of the Lake Worth Inlet District, which was dredged out here for the War Department in the early days by General Gaithall's supervision. It came down here.
It's a man-made
1923. Or man-made inlet. It's been made several times by men. The old inlet here was open and closed in the storm many, many years ago. The Mary B. and the Emily B., two boats owned and operated by Mr. Hendrickson, came down on the ocean, came through the natural inlet and came down to their place, which is Bethesda by the Sea in those days. almost opposite Mangonia that you hear about.
Tell me, sir, what preparations were made to withstand a hurricane in the early days?
Yeah.
Do you have
We
any
didn't-
advance warning?
Oh, we had very little advance warning. I've been through a number of those sessions too. They were much more severe than they are today. In the first place, we didn't have concrete block construction until late, and then even then that proved unsatisfactory because of the binding of the mortar. But when we had wooden construction, there was a certain amount of give to it. But even so, you could travel through the country and see the lean-tos on the northwest side, which was propping up against the prevailing winds, the trade winds from the southeast, which came in from Kingston, Jamaica, and down the lower Antilles.
As I've noticed in Key West, many of those old wooden buildings
Oh,
have
yes.
withstood the ravages.
Yes.
You think it's because they give?
They give to a certain extent, and remember this, that those buildings are not more than 2 stories high.
There's a building up in Stewart, which the present owner was not the builder.
Now, wait a minute. When you mentioned the place, I'm pretty familiar with Stewart.
Well, that's the gabled house of Mrs. Porter.
Oh, yes, I know Porter very well. He was the old Standard Oil man there for years. He delivered gasoline up and down here and had the right of sale for Standard Oil people.
Well, they have something like, I believe, a 7-gabled house, which they claim, or at least Mrs. Porter claims, was originally built as a design to withstand hurricanes.
Yes, it is a freak. And in building terminology, I've heard many architects call it a freak. Now, I'm not casting aspersions against Mrs. Porter. I like her very much.
Yes, she's quite a
character.
lady.
Yes,
Quite a
she is.
character.
Yes, both.
I know her son very well.
Yes,
Bill.
that's right.
That young, her grandson, of course,
Yes.
is the apple of her eye.
Yes, and it wasn't only just a half mile down the road to where the Stitmans lived in those days, and he was the first county tax assessor in Palm Beach County in 1909.
Do you recall anything else in those early days that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think you've covered the highlights. I think that would be a good place to terminate the
Okay.
discussion.
Thank you very much.
You're
sir.
quite welcome.
Mrs. Fred Miller, 350 Brazilian Avenue, Palm Beach.